Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. We're starting a little bit later today. We just needed to get a map pulled up that we'll be displaying a little later this afternoon. So my name is Stephanie Bishop. I'm one of the public information officers with California Interagency Incident Management Team 2. Thank you for joining us this evening. We do have a bunch of different speakers that will be coming up and talking. So I'm going to ask that we hold all questions until the end, and we will get to those questions. Currently, right now, our current acreage is 57,519, and we're looking at 10% containment. So that's the good news. And we do have some black on the map that one of our operations section chief will talk about and give you a little bit more good news. A little bit of housekeeping. In case of an emergency, we do have an exit door there as well as there, and the bathrooms are going to be back here, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with the school, but I do need to point it out. I am going to ask that we hold questions, like I said, till the end. We are also doing this online, so we will take some questions online also. And with that starting, I'm going to ask that the Siskiyou County Board Supervisor, District 5, Ray Hout, did I say that right? Okay, he's going to come up and do a couple opening comments. I tried.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I don't have a whole lot to say other than I'm pretty pleased by the unified command and the work that's being done by both the agencies. They're making pretty short work of a monster of a fire. It's been a pretty rough 3 or 4 days. 3,000 plus people displaced, a number of fatalities, and we're just starting the search and rescue process on the river. If you haven't been on the river in a while, I had a hard time recognizing where I was the other day. It's pretty bad fire. I'm going to turn it back over, and I hope you have questions tonight.
Will you be around for him?
I will be.
Okay, perfect.
One other thing. Sorry about that. One other thing. If in the recovery process, the county's fully staffed, we're up and running to get, if you're here and you've lost your home, we'll be ramping up the building department, that kind of thing, to get folks back in their homes as quick as we can. We're also providing services for people without water and the other issues we've got going on across the county. The fire team has soaked up a lot of resources that normally support people, but we're backfilling that to meet the human need. So thanks for coming again.
All right, thank you. Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to be so loud. I'm going to ask for opening comments. We are a unified command, so right now I do have Klamath National Forest Acting District Ranger Mario Gomez and CAL FIRE Unit Chief Phil Anzo that will come up and say a few words, but I would like to recognize that we have the Klamath National Forest Supervisor Rachel Smith is also here, and she can be available to answer questions later on. I'll give it to you first. You go first.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to come out and join us to hear about the fire, the latest information on the fire. I'm sure everybody has some concerns about it, and rightfully so. It's a very, very large fire for our county. And I know that you're no strangers to fire here. I've spoken to you several times over my career, and unfortunately we're back in it again. This is one of the biggest threats that we've had in a really long time in this county. It's already wreaked havoc. It's devastated the community of Klamath River, and we're doing our best to do everything we can to protect the other communities that are threatened by this fire. So Wairika City, we went in and actually did quite a bit of work around that community before that fire reached it, and we were doing the same thing on the southern portion of the fire in protection of Fort Jones. So we've been able to accomplish quite a bit, and with the recent rains that we've had, now we're able to go a lot closer to the fire's edge and go direct on this thing. So your firefighters have been out there working hard for you, and they are making great progress. But when you look at this fire on this map, you really don't know how large this thing is until you start driving around it. It is massive, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. But I'm here to tell you that we in CAL FIRE have been here from the beginning. We've been working alongside our federal counterparts from day one. We are in unified command, which means we have a single voice We have common goals and common objectives. And the most important thing is to keep our citizens safe and our firefighters safe. And that's what we intend to do. And we're going to be successful with this fire too. So thank you very much, and I'll be here to answer any questions as well. I'll turn it over. Mario.
Thank you, Chief Enzo. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mario Gomez. I'm the detailed Deputy District Ranger for here in Fort Jones. I want to echo, what Chief Enzo said about what's going on and our support and collaborative effort taking place on the incident. A lot of the Siskiyou County residents have been affected by this fire, and something that's resonating with a lot of us on Saturday morning. I got a call from my boss telling me that I needed to come to work because we had a fire, and then about 12 o'clock that day, my wife called me and said she was getting evacuated from our house here in Fort Jones. So, since then it's been an interesting and trying few days for all of us. We've been working hard to try to stabilize, the incident and provide as much information and support to the communities as we can. And it's continuing to get better. I want to thank California Incident Management Team 2 for coming up and helping us out, manage this catastrophic incident. And I am available, anytime here in Fort Jones over at the district office. If you guys want to come see myself or Richard, the FMO here for the district, we'll answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And, we're going to continue to support as best we can. And on behalf of the Klamath National Forest, we do want to offer our condolences to all the folks in Siskiyou County that have been affected by this fire and the folks that have suffered a loss.
Thank you. Our next, we're going to do some operational update briefings. We're going to start with the McKinney fire, and I'm going to ask from my Operations Section Chief, Matt Conklin, with the California Interagency Incident Management Team 2.
Good evening. So we're going to start over here on the east side of the incident. This is what we're calling Branch 1, just above the Fort Jones, or excuse me, the Wairika community here. A lot of good work has gone in here. You see this black line here represents containment. It's what we feel is some area that the fire is not going to move anymore. So red is what we would define as uncontrolled yet. We're making a lot of very good progress in here. All of these X's here are dozer line, and I want to highlight that because this ridge system here has been dozed. We've done a secondary containment line, and then right above the community there, Wairika, there's a third line, and that was initiated as Chief Anzo was alluding to there in the very early periods of this incident, trying to get ahead of that forward progress here. So back to this area here, crews are making some really good progress there. A little bit slow going. We had some environmental challenges in accessing for the last 24 hours there. Had a little bit of a debris flow here in Humbug, so that delayed us a little bit, but we are making progress. Moving around the corner here, all of this area does have some hand line in it. There's pretty significant heat in the middle there, but we're doing pretty well. A lot of rolling material that we're trying to grab there, and it's doing really well. Folks are really doing a good job in there. Coming through this area here, through Baldy Gap, some heat's in there, but we do have line around it. Folks are staffing that 24 hours, and we're doing really well. Should be another couple of days, and we can start to turn some of that contained. We're going to continue on the backside here. Into Branch 5, things are also looking really good. Folks are going direct. We've initiated some of these contingency lines in here. We've gone direct in here through this area here, and we're actually running retardant right now. As you guys were coming in this evening, you might have saw the smoke out behind us there. That is this section of line in here, and we're running retardant on that right now, trying to bolster that. It is actively backing into that dozer line there. But we're confident that we'll be able to contain it right where it's at there. Coming along through Branch 10 here. This area is looking really good. We got a lot of good hand line in here, backed up with some engine support. And all of this area in here is looking really good. Folks are lining that today, so that got completed today. So a lot of good progress going all the way into the Klamath River. Coming out of the Klamath River north there, this has all actually been lined. We had a bunch of dozers and hand crews in there today. So we've got some hand line and dozer line all the way up through here, coming around almost to pipeline gap there. We got a little bit of opportunity to clean some stuff up in there. We got 5 hot shot crews doing some hand line on this other side here, coming out of Beaver Creek and trying to contain that. And something I want to highlight that's pretty interesting is this spot fire right here, right in Beaver Creek, is just about 1,000 acres. And we're going direct on a 1,000-acre spot fire in August. That's not something that we get to do a lot in the Klamath River, so that's a good thing. We're doing really well there, and we think by close of business tomorrow, this should have complete line around it. So a lot of tremendous effort. Coming through the Klamath River corridor here, this area here is looking really good. We're going to probably put some containment on that here coming tomorrow. And then this last piece here coming up through China Peak and onto this ridge system here. This is a fingery mess. Some of that rain that we got was really successful in putting the fire out and stopping the spread. It did make a little bit more of a mess for us, so we'll just take another day to clean it all up and cut that out. But we have folks engaged in there, and they're working very diligently to get that going. It's just a little bit slow going.
Questions will be done after. Right. I promise I won't let them leave. I won't. To give us a little update in regards to the Kelsey fire, we have Salmon Scott District Fire Management Officer Richard Ingram.
Good evening, everybody. Give you a quick overall view of what we got on the whole district real quick. Salmon River District picked up 4 lightning fires, of which biggest one was 2.5 acres in the Hancock Lake area in the Marbles. Here locally on the Scott River, picked up 3 fires. Biggest one was a 1/2 acre. And then last night we picked up 2 additional fires at the south end of the valley near Carmen Lake and Lily Pad Lake. Both of those are 1/10 of an acre in patrol status at this time. And then moving on to the Kelsey fire, is just off the map down Scott River near the Kelsey Creek Trailhead. Started just on the south side of the Kelsey Creek Trail there, and it burned 81 acres. It is currently lined, got hose lay all the way around it, and we got 120 folks out there mopping it up. And as of now, it's 25 to 50 feet mopped up all the way around the perimeter. And tomorrow we're going to be shifting it to a Type 4 IC and releasing some of the resources to come over and help the McKinney and the Yeti fires.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is going to be regarding fire behavior. Dennis Burns with California Interagency Incident Management Team 2. He's our fire behavior analyst.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know what a fire behavior analyst does, I work with meteorologists from the National Weather Service, and my job is kind of twofold. I try to model the fire, where it's going to go, how fast it's going to get there, when it's going to get there, kind of that strategic look, and work with Matt so that we pick the best place where to put lines in that are going to be the most successful. And then I work with the firefighters that are on the ground, and that's my primary job, is to keep them safe, to tell them those areas that they need to stay out of, or those things that are going to catch them. So probably the big question of most people is we got a heck of a lot of rain, and there's still a lot of smoke up there. So let me back up before that. We're in a couple of years of drought now, and there's several things that drive fires. And for the last couple of years in California, and we were on the river complex and experienced this last year, is the fuels, because of the drought, a lot of the fuels that normally would not be available to burn are burning now. For an example, a 6-inch log, which is what we call a 1,000-hour fuel, so that means it takes 1,000 hours for it to reach equilibrium with the atmosphere. They're sitting somewhere between 4 and 6% fuel moisture. so that's 4% of the weight of that piece of wood is water. Well, you go to a local lumber yard and buy kiln dried lumber, it's 11%. So that tells you kind of the state of the fuels out there. So even though we got this rain, those heavier fuels, that rain had no effect on it whatsoever. All it did was it took the flames away from it. We would have been better off to have 1 inch of rain over 3 days than the 3 inches of rain that we got in 1 hour yesterday. So all it did was it gave us a pause. We were able to grab some extra ground potentially, but in some areas it actually made it worse for us, where the fuels would have completely consumed. It put them out, and now the crews actually have to go in there and cut line around all these different fingers. But just to give you an example of some of the rainfall that we had, so this is the west side of the fire. Fort Jones is right down here. Some of the fire got absolutely no rain. This kind of darker green line, that's less than 1/100th of an inch of rain, so basically nothing. As we come into the green lines, it's basically 1/10. But you see in here, we had anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in the center of the fire, kind of over that branch 1 area. But a majority of the fire actually got basically less than 1/10 of an inch of rain. That cell that came over just kind of sat and squatted over branch 1, and then it moved off. And most of the storms actually were going east of us. So that's kind of one of the things that, to hopefully answer some of your questions. We got all this rain, and you guys are still out there, and there's not a bunch of black on the map. So specifically, what's going on our fire, Matt's kind of gone around the horn. The fire is sitting, for the most part, in what we call a backing alignment. Fire wants to go slower downhill than it goes uphill, which is a good thing for us. And it's given our crews opportunities to go in and pick up. One of the things that Matt really didn't touch on is a lot of where you see red on this map, there's actually line there. But we're not comfortable putting black on the map until it's mopped in and it's basically been tested by the weather. And we've had some kind of cool, moist weather the last few days. And now we're going into that hot, dry pattern. And so now we're actually able to test some of that that's out there. So the other thing is when I work with Matt is, we have to decide whether we do direct or indirect tactics. So direct is literally right on the fire's edge. Indirect is we back off. There's 2 reasons why we use indirect. One is the fire's pushing us and it's just not safe to get on the fire's edge. The other is topography, the lay of the land. And I don't need to tell you folks here, this land is steep and deep. And I've been a firefighter a little over 40 years now, and every time you came to the Klamath, it was, ridges, roads, and rivers where you hold the fire. So there are some areas that we're going to have to go indirect because the topography is such that we just can't get up against the fire's edge, not without rock climbing gear and whatnot. So there's going to be areas where we're going to have to back off and probably do a little bit of burning just to bring the fire right down to the line. So as we're sitting right now, for the next 2 to 3 days, we're not expecting the fire to make any big runs. It will continue to pump out a lot of smoke because there's just so much fuels on the ground, a tremendous amount of fuels on the ground. Those have to burn out. And until the fire hits where we have these indirect lines, it's going to continue to produce smoke also. So that's kind of it in a nutshell from where we're sitting right now. Not looking at the fire, there's no weather events or anything that's going to suggest that this fire is going to get legs and make any significant runs, at least for the next 3 to 4 days. So that's where we're at, and if you have questions afterwards, I'll be here.
Thank you, Dennis, for that information. Appreciated. Next, we're going to have John Imes. He's one of our air source resource advisors on the McKinney fire, talk a little bit about the air that we're seeing and experiencing.
Good evening. Thanks for being here tonight. And as mentioned, I'm a smoke analyst and on this fire, on the McKinney fire. And I have put up here on the screen right now a smoke outlook. And part of my job is to be able to model smoke, where it's going to move, where it's going to disperse, and then take that and forecast for the area surrounding the fire. I do want to mention that I'm stationed on the east side of the fire, and it's a large fire, and so you'll see communities that are primarily along that eastern ridge all the way down to Fort Jones. A colleague of mine is now on the Yeti complex on the other side of the fire, working that one as an ARA, and she is forecasting also for those towns that go along the Klamath drainage going on down. And so you can find these outlooks, these smoke outlooks, on message boards around your community. There's hard copies there. You can also find them on the California Smoke blog if you just Google that and find those outlooks. Those are produced daily. They're out by 8 a.m. They are a good indicator of what the day is like and when to spend time outside doing different activities if you're exercising or anything like that, or hard working in the sense of if you get into the really unhealthy air, it can be very detrimental to the breathing as far as those who are susceptible to that. And so on the California Smoke blog, you're able to actually dive in and not just get an overall daily air quality forecast, but you can also get what it's going to be like in the morning, what it's going to be like at noon, what it's going to be like later in the evening. And so we kind of broadcast it that way. Well, what I want to talk about right now, you all are very familiar living in this area with smoke, so I don't have to tell you much about that. But I do want to show you in a minute a video of today that occurred between 5 a.m. and 1:30. It was a lighter day regarding smoke, and I want to talk about the general patterns. And so we are primarily dominated by westerlies, so the wind is coming out of the west and pushing the smoke east. But those winds carrying that smoke generally tend to get active as the day progresses. Early in the morning, you'll see that smoke generally tends to go down the terrain into the drainages, and you'll get that from this area down here. And so I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if we've already, if we can restart that possibly. So here's the nighttime, but you can see right up in this area, here's the Yeti complex, and here's the fire from McKinney. Let it go one more time here. You can see in the morning, so as the night progresses or the morning progresses, you'll see a pooling going down the Klamath Valley right here. And that later will dissipate and leave the area. You'll see the smoke coming off of the McKinney fire generally being driven by those westerlies and moving east. And so I work in conjunction with our meteorologist regarding how the fire and how the smoke will behave to the best of our abilities. And I do know that the long-term forecast is that we're not going to get winds from the north for a while. We're going to be stuck in this westerly. So winds pushing down smoke directly into this area won't be the primary. You will get smoke because it's too big a fire. It will not dissipate. It'll just kind of sit and come on down. So that's what I have for you right now. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is going to be in regards to evacuations, public safety, Sheriff LaRue with the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office. And they have it up on the screen. Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. Some hard days. I think we're going through something that every year is very challenging. I spoke earlier a couple days ago. We all feel that. Our team up here on both sides, the people in the public, the community, we're all in this together. I tend to think of my department as a family. I extend that out into the community. We serve you. And the Sheriff's Office and law enforcement, all public safety, and the firefighters, of course. Number one is public safety, is life, and then property. And you've probably heard that we've had 4 fatalities. And once again, I'd like to take just a moment of silence to honor those that we don't even know their names yet, but they need to be honored. So will you bow your heads with me for a few moments? Thank you. I'll give you a little bit of an overview about what law enforcement has been doing. So we have around 60 law enforcement officers from all over California and Southern Oregon that have come in to assist. We put out the information and we had people respond very quickly. And that's encouraging. People want to come up here and stick together with us through our difficult and challenging time. So you've probably seen vehicles, Sacramento Sheriff's Office, different counties that you're probably not used to. We called and they responded, and that's why they're here. So they're driving around with assignments. They are ensuring that property is being checked on to the best that they can, and then aiding in a variety of different assignments. We have search and rescue teams that come in throughout the state that are going to go into the burned areas. So we have over 200 structures that we are checking, and that's a tedious process. And we want to ensure that we thoughtfully and thoroughly go through them. We are checking to see if anybody is deceased, and the county is also going through and doing a damage inspection. As most of us know, when there's a fire, there is a lot of additional work after the fire leaves the area. And so we have to ensure that it's safe for people to return, which is why we have evacuations. And we have, and you can see on the screen there, we've started using a new program called Zone Haven, which allows us to target specific zones and get the information out very quickly. And so when you see red, that is an order, which means get out immediately. That's not to be taken lightly. That means that essentially things have gotten so severe that we need you to get out, like right now. Yellow is a warning, and sometimes people take warning as we have a lot of time. I want to stress that warning is be prepared to go. And I know it conveys all kinds of stressful feelings and uncertainty and frustration, and I feel that and I hear you on that. The whole team does. We don't want to cause a panic, but we want to prepare you, because the only thing we can do is try to get things out as fast as possible. So again, when you see yellow, that's not the time to start going through and having everything packaged and getting all the important stuff. The time to do that is actually before the warning. And I'll say this, I'm not the best at getting stuff ready early. I know oftentimes we talk as though we're the experts in everything and that we're always ready to go, but I'm just like you, just a regular person. And we got other priorities going on. And so I just want to encourage you to take the time to go home and get the stuff ready that's important, so that in the event that you have to evacuate, if you have already, you've been through this, it's stressful, but just have something ready to go. That's important. So the good news, as you've heard reported here, I know I'm standing in front of the map. It's nice to have black on the map. We can all agree with that. So the ability to change these things from orders to warnings is based upon fire behavior and the information that we get from fire officials. So it's a collaboration. They meet with law enforcement, and we sort of get the whole big picture about what's going to happen. So the last thing we want to do is to evacuate you and then have to send you back and then evacuate you again. So I appreciate the patience, and I know, again, it's frustrating, but we do have some areas that have gone from order back to warning. And if we can put that up, I think for the sake of time, after this is done, if you have questions, to come up and look at the map, and that way you can see if it's in a particular area that you live, or a family or a friend, whatever it may be. And that way you can check, and we try to keep these updated as quickly as possible. A couple more things I want to talk about. That safety is number one. So if you have some concerns about safety, no matter what it is, you can tell us. okay? This isn't just a one-way discussion. I would like to hear things that are important to you so that we can be better and we can get things accomplished. That's the goal. So if it's a public safety issue, really anything to do with law enforcement, I'm your representative, and I'm here to serve you. So just keep that in mind. I take that very serious, as we all do. Communication is key. It's not always easy, but again, our goal is to get you back home, and we don't want to put you at risk at all. Again, success is the key. We need all these people and their teams to be successful. We want you to be successful. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Again, it's a challenging time. But we're a strong community. I've been here my whole life. And I know that we're going to get through this. And one thing about Siskiyou County is that we are a close community. So when we do really feel things when they affect one individual, we all feel that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we're going to have Brian Shanoni from the Siskiyou County Office of Emergency Services Director.
It was pretty close. It's been worse. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I was told I have to stand still tonight, so I'm going to do my very best. All right, so most of what Sheriff LaRue has said is absolutely exactly what I'm going to say. So that's why you get to go first. All right, so first of all, Zone Haven, do we still have that map up? Excellent. So in warning or in some kind of affected area, we have 5,200 people, 5,207. In actual order, we have 30 zones in an evacuation order, and the total population in those zones is 1,300 people. That's not an easy task, especially trying to push those notifications out, especially when we need you to understand that is important. Like Sheriff said, if you're in an order, you should be gone. These fire behaviors, as we hear from the professionals here, that this is a tough fire. So what we can do as the emergency manager is I can make sure that we're getting warning and alerts out. But I need your help. So I need your help to know your zone. And you're going to hear me say that. And when you get an alert, it's going to say know your zone. And if that zone is evacuated, that means it's time to go. So ETN 2316 is my zone, which means I'm in Etna zone 2316. So for you, one of the best things we have, and I have these tonight, and come talk to me, we have these great little magnets. And these magnets you can throw your zone right on there. There's a little QR code that will help you get that zone. Throw that on your refrigerator or whatever's magnetic, and understand and know your zone. So if that pops off at midnight and it's an order for zone SIS, whatever, that you know, all right, it's time to go. Because the worst thing to be doing at 12 o'clock in the morning is trying to figure out your zone, or trying to figure out if it's actually you that's getting evacuated. So that's really the most I want to talk about. I do want to talk about sheltering. Today was a pretty exciting day. It's been a few tough days. So we've had to evacuate a shelter. So we moved people to Wairika, and then we had to evacuate that shelter to Weed. And I want to thank the Weed Community Center for their support. As a community, we were able to come together and push our people at the very last moment down from Wairika down to Weed. We we didn't throw anybody, but we put everybody on buses along with their animals that needed to be on there, and we got a really good push. But it took about 6 hours to do. It was a really tough evacuation. I want to thank the sheriff and all the mutual aid that was there to help us for that. So today, I went down to Weed and visited, like I try to do as much as I can, and we try to hold off as long as we can and make it a big ordeal, and then we finally just were like, all right, look, you're going home at 3. So we lifted those orders and put them into warnings. I was really excited to get those folks out. So right now, our current shelter numbers are 17 people. So we had about 59 yesterday, a few others outside with their pets. Now we're down to 17, so that's good. Our shelter will be moving to Wairika, and that'll probably be happening tomorrow. It looks like everything's in place for that. And for those of you that are unfortunately have lost your home, we want to make sure that you are taken care of. And as Supervisor Haupt said, we have started the recovery process. So the day this incident started, we started our recovery process. So I have multiple teams coming up to help with that as well. So soon, so your Siskiyou County Office of Emergency Services page, which is our page that we run, now has a tab up on top that says recovery, and it has all of the local links and all of the state links that are going to help you create that road to recovery, and which is really important. Now, a LAC is a local assistance center. That will be set up within the next day or so, and all of that information will be like a one-stop shop in person. So all you got to do, let's say I'm just not that internet savvy, I can stop at the LAC and take care of all of my needs. We'll have multiple agencies that are ready and willing to help you. So we're getting that taken care of. So please pay attention to my page, Siskiyou County OES, Siskiyou County Sheriff's page, and I'm sure our CAL FIRE and Klamath will give us a hand on sharing that. So I just wanted to say thank you. Those are my talking points tonight. I'll be around afterwards. If you have any questions, please feel free to come on over and grab one of these snazzy magnets, and we'll help you learn your zone. So we'll keep that up and make sure that we are getting you notified on that. Thank you.
Can you give the address of the new shelter?
Yes, I knew you were going to do that. That is the Karuk Wellness Center in Wairika. That is pronounced So it's in Wairika. If you click on the Zone Haven app, you'll have a button that will give you the directions to the Karuk Wellness Center. And I definitely want to extend a really huge thank you to our partners at the Karuks. Have been just outstanding, which really just builds that community. This is what we are. We're Siskiyou County. We are up here. We're kind of isolated from the rest of the world, and when we can come together with our partners throughout the county, it just really shows that this is who we are. We're Siskiyou County. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So our final speakers this evening are going to be our incident commanders. We have Incident Commander Nikki Johnny with the California Interagency Incident Management Team 2, and Incident Commander Daryl Laws with CAL FIRE. You flipping a coin, who goes first?
We're like, who's going to go first, who's going to go last, but I am not a local, so I'm going to go first and let Chief Daryl Laws have the last word. So I've been to the Klamath multiple times throughout my career. I'm actually on the El Dorado National Forest, Highway 50 between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. But I come up here a lot. I came up as a firefighter when I was younger and later on team assignments. Last year, the most recent assignment we were on was the river fire. One thing that I can say that's unique about Siskiyou County is that you guys are a strong community. You have multiple small communities, but you all care about each other. You're all looking out for each other. And what's really special when I come up, when I think about the Klamath, not the steep mountains and the rivers and the ridges, is that you guys support the firefighters. You care about us, and I really appreciate that. The firefighters appreciate it, and they know that when they come to the Klamath, you guys have their back. So I want to say thank you for that. The other thing that I know that when I come to the Klamath is that you guys want real-time, accurate information. And our team does our best to work with the Sheriff's Department, the cooperators, CAL FIRE, to get together. We have our own meetings, and we coordinate what's going on so that you guys get that information, because we know it's important. We know it's important to get it here in person, to get it on for the internet, through Facebook, any way we can get that information out, and so we're committed to that. So again, I just want to say thank you for all of your support. And I'll hand it over to my partner.
Thanks, Nikki. So I'm Darrell Laws. I'm the operations chief for the CAL FIRE Siskiyou unit. And I also serve as the deputy county fire warden for Siskiyou County. I work just over the hill in Wairika, but I've worked at every station in Siskiyou County. I just wanted to take a quick second just for you folks to just recognize some of your local firefighters that are here at the meeting. We've got Joseph Hess, the chief of Fort Jones Fire, and then I see out here some other folks from Scott Valley Fire Department, and then from our local ambulance company over here in the valley also out here. So, you know, those people come out and help us all the time. They come out, especially, you know, even the ambulance company comes out if we get hurt and take care of us. So I just want to recognize that, you know, your local volunteers, your departments, they're doing a fantastic job of keeping us safe. So what are we doing out there? We're working 24 hours a day to contain this fire. We're trying to hammer this thing down. This is a giant, a sleeping giant right now. Got a little bit of rain on it, on that west side. Got a lot of rain on that east side. And, you know, we had some problems last night with mudslides, people getting trapped in Humbug Creek. We had all kinds of issues last night. But we're back at it this morning. There's another shift out there. Got, I think, 2,200 firefighters on the fire right now. And they're out there and they're making hay. They're getting after it. And our goal is to get you folks back to your homes that are evacuated. It's always our goal. So just one last thing, just to kind of dovetail on to Sheriff LaRue. He talked about evacuations. Director Shannone talked about them. Is that just remember, if you can heed that evacuation order and be ready in that warning, is that when people don't heed those orders and they call 911 and they're trapped in the fire or something else, that takes us away from being able to put out the fire. And the best way to protect your homes is for us to get out there and put out that fire and put black on the map. So I thank you for your support. We're going to continue to keep after it, and we hope to have a bunch more containment on the map in the next couple days. And hopefully, you know, if there's anybody else that's out of their homes that's here, we hope to get you back in your home. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. So we have some time left. We're going to do some questions. I do questions a little different than some people. What I'm going to do is take that number 7 that I'm standing right in front of, and everybody on this side will be Group A, and everybody on this side will be Group B. I'm going to start with Group A, and I'm going to take about 2 to 3 questions, and then I'm going to move to Group B and take 2 or 3 questions, and then I'll answer a few online. I have my one of my partners here with CAL FIRE. He's going to have the microphone, so raise your hand, give him a few minutes to hand you the microphone so everybody can hear it and those online can hear it. Does anybody in A have any questions? So I've got one up there and one over here.
Hello. Yeah, a lot of us have lost a lot of business this week, a lot of canceled jobs and things. Is there any sort of program? I know Newsom declared a state of emergency and all. Is there anything, grants or otherwise, coming in?
Hold on just a second. I will see if we can get you a response. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, in general, yes. Grants typically come in the recovery phase, and there will be grants. The SBA becomes available. In the LAC, there'll be representatives there to plug you into the right agencies to either qualify for grants or other financial aid. And where's Brian? Anything to add, or I figured you would.
Thanks, sir. This is kind of my gig. So that's okay. It happens. All right. It's because I wasn't moving. All right. So yes and no. We're still waiting on a bigger push. So we know that this fire is growing, and we need to, well, as it chews up more, then more is given. Right now we're at a holding point because these guys are doing a fantastic job on putting it out, which is what we want. So we've got to look at that as a whole. Sometimes there is SBA and sometimes there's not. And as of right now, there is not. So that part is tough. Individually, personally, non-business related, homes lost, yes. Businesses, no. So and my recommendation is when that LAC is set up, come to the LAC, and then those opportunities will be presented at that time. So I hope that helps.
I'm used to him jumping up to answer the questions. I forgot he was over there. I apologize. And then you had one, sir?
This question's for Supervisor Rachel, the forest supervisor. Can you guarantee us that there's not going to be any excessive backburns and unnecessary backburns like we've seen in the years past?
Rachel?
Dwayne, I appreciate that question. I won't say I expected it, but I appreciate it. My commitment to you is that I've got the best of our firefighting resources in the West and truly from around the country here, and they're making the best risk-informed decisions. So one of the things that I want to do with them when I bring in teams like Nikki's team is I trust them enough to tell them that I want to give them the space to do things. But one of the things that they also heard from both me and also Chief Anzo when they arrived, and Nikki's team is used to this because they've heard this from us last year with the river complex, is I really needed them to listen to local experience, all the folks that they have that have spent time on this forest working in this territory. So as an example, her deputy, Curtis Coots, actually spent time as fire leadership on this forest. So what I can guarantee you is every decision that they make is something that I have a high degree of confidence in, and both Chief Anzo and I have buy-in into the decisions they're making.
Thank you. Anybody else on this side have any questions? All right, we'll go over here. Anybody over here have questions? I've got two right here and one back there, and another one up here.
Oh, you hold it. Oh, good. Yes, I have two questions. One is about the code red alerts. If you received an alert to, be ready and then one to evacuate, and then the fire has, in some cases calmed down and things look better, if they flare up again and you're in more immediate danger, is there a second alert that goes to that phone number in that zone?
So your question, just so I make sure I understand it right, is if you receive a code red alert and you evacuate and then you come back in, but the fire re-flares up, will you receive another alert? Brian? Or, I tried, sorry.
I know, we keep blocking Brian, that's okay. Who asked the question? Sorry, I didn't. Oh, okay, I appreciate that. So let me explain a little bit about that. So we're constantly looking at that map, that Zone Haven map, and we're also constantly speaking with all the fire officials and the law enforcement officials. So we will send out the warnings, right, and then we'll send out orders. It could be either one. What we want to avoid is evacuating you in an order and then putting you back in a warning and then pulling you back out. That's why there's this constant process, and it can be frustrating, like why. These are questions we hear a lot. It appears that the fire is, not growing, so why are we still closed in these certain areas? And that's because we're trying to process all this other stuff about the potential, because we don't want to put you back in harm's way. So anytime that we decide to make a change, we send out an alert. We don't ever have a warning and then move it to an order, or go from an order to a warning without a blast going out, if that helps. So every time we change it from normal to anything or vice versa, there's always an announcement. Does that help?
Yeah, only if there's a change. Is there a secondary announcement?
So basically, any time we are doing anything with that zone, even if we put it back into normal, like the fire goes out, it goes from warning back to normal, we'll send out an announcement. So any change at all from any of the, there's either a normal, warning, or an order. And anytime they initially go into those positions or change, there's always an announcement.
Okay, and one other zone question. Seems like the first time to use Zone Haven. Is there a sense that maybe the zones are awfully big and, like maybe there was it's at risk at the top, but you're way down at the bottom of the zone and it's not as much of a risk? Is there any future thoughts of adjusting those zones?
Oh yeah, there's always thoughts. So our county is massive geographically, 6,200 square miles. Some of these zones are the size of the entire counties in other places. So there's a process that we go through and we can change it, which some of them are humongous. And what we're looking at with those sizes are population, access, from ingress and egress, basically how people get in and out, daytime, nighttime population. So there's all kinds of factors that go into it, but also the potential for spread, the terrain. So there's kind of a lot that's in why they're so big. So versus when you get down into cities, they're very tight. So we're always able to change them. And certainly we even have, if you look at some of our maps now, we have gone in and made A's and B's. You might see some zones that have A's and B's, different letters, because we've cut them in half. So it's not a perfect system, but it's a quick, rapid way of getting information out, but they are subject to change. But we'll always let you know. Is that good? Okay. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, you can hold it. Thank you. Speaking of the zoning and the coding, I've been on your Siskiyou County emergency alert since January, and that's the 218 number, and 3500131. So I get text messages regarding codes, and beginning on June 14th, I got a test for Siskiyou County codes red. Know your zone, it said. That was June 14th. June 16th, I got another one saying, know your zone, test. Then I got no other notifications of evacuations. I'm from Wairika until 5:08 p.m. tonight, and that was lowering the zones. What is the discrepancy of that? Because I also have the emergency communication line at the 866-419-5000 number, and I also got another warning lifted, but no evacuation warning to evacuate.
Okay, there's a lot of information there. I'll try to do the best I can right now. So the numbers that you receive that are the 866 numbers, those are Code Red's kind of default numbers. They don't actually go back to like a phone number you could call, if that's what you're referring to is the numbers.
Oh, no, those are the numbers that I received those from. I'm just wondering why I never got any evacuation notice that Wairika was being evacuated, even though I do know my zone, 3517. So.
Is that in the city of Wairika?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple things. I mean, this could be numerous. So when we get an evacuation, or when we determine that we're going to send out an order or a warning, we, well, back up. First off, if you have a cell phone, it has to be registered in Code Red, because you could be from Tennessee and have a phone number there and then move into Wairika, and there's no way to connect that cell phone unless you go into Code Red and say, I live here. So that's why we encourage people to sign up for Code Red for the cell phones. If you have a landline, which is the regular phone that you have at home, a lot of people don't have those, but those are automatically, they get an announcement from that location because they're registered, because they have a home address. So that's preceding everything before there's an announcement. So the way that it is designed to work is that a zone is selected in Code Red, Zone Haven, and then in Code Red it is marked on a map. All of those people that are affected within that zone will receive an announcement. They should receive a text message and a phone call. That's how it's designed to. It does happen where people do not receive them. That is certainly not the intent. The tests that went out, and Brian might be able to speak to this, I'm not sure. I think they were county-wide, and sometimes within those zones, depending on how they're drawn up, and also, just to go back, zones in the city limits of Wairika, often they're pushed out by the city of Wairika. We handle county jurisdictions. So, and we could talk offline about this. I can maybe try to look at what you have to help you. But we certainly, the design is that they go out because the system should send them out. If that helps. Thank you.
Go ahead and afterwards maybe show them the documents you're looking at. Perfect. And then up here, this gentleman had one. We'll get to you in just a minute.
So when we got the update on the fire, the officer that did the update on it, fire management officer there, basically you didn't really elaborate on any of the fingers that are coming down on the Scott Valley side. I'm concerned about the ridge lines and the Scott Valley side, the fingers that are basically in Baker Cabin area and Indian Baldy. And I think that, to me, just being born and raised in Scott Valley and know the terrain and fire behavior, I'd like to have an explanation on what you guys are doing on those, on the big finger there on Indian Baldy. And then one other question I have is, what's the yellow or what's the green ribbon on our driveways? And I know they're pink ribbons, but what's the green or the like light green ribbons that were put on our driveways today?
Okay.
And the areas that are under evacuation.
All right.
To be honest with you, I have no idea what the green ribbons are. I saw them myself for the first time today, so we'll find out. That said, this stuff here in Indian Valley, crews are going direct. That's exactly what they're doing. They're going direct. They're cutting that out, and it's a slow go, but that's exactly what they're doing, is cutting that out direct. Going direct. Yeah, we did run retardant, like I was talking about, along this piece of dozer line down in here, section 20 and into 17. We were running retardant along some dozer line there to reinforce as the fire's backing down towards that. It's about 1,000 feet or so separation between the fire's edge and where we were able to put machines on the ground safely where they weren't going to roll.
And once our operations gets information about what those green flags are, we will get that information up on the Klamath National Forest page, as well as the CAL FIRE Siskiyou County page, so that you can get that answer. And then we had one more over here, sorry. Yeah. Actually, hold on, Brian might know the answer.
So green ribbon, what I was told is that it does change in color slightly. Between, so there are folks that want to do nefarious stuff, so sometimes the ribbons do change. One of the colors it can be is insurance going through and marking before. That's one of the ribbon colors, and there's other law enforcement colors, but yes, they do change, and that is what we got today, because we've had this question a lot come into the Emergency Operations Center this week. So, and we did some research. Way above my pay grade.
On that, when we get done with questions, I'll have you come down and talk more direct with our operations and look at the map.
Okay. I just have another question about the Zone Haven. I've been observing that on the local news that comes from Medford, and it does nothing for me. For one thing, I've always known that I've been in Fire Zone 280 for years, and I don't know have any way to equate them, but also, excuse me, the fact that there are no town names there, so you don't really know. If you do know your zone, it's okay, but if you don't, you have no idea where to put yourself. Is there any way that they can put, maybe like, here's Wairika, here's Fort Jones, here's something, you know? Okay.
Yeah, I got this one. All right, do we have that map that we can pop up there? All right, excellent. Ma'am, where are you? Okay. So that's going to be a CIS. That's going to be one up, oh, shoot. Up around here, yes. So we would expand it out for you, but I'll show you. The 280, that is weather. So that's the county in this country is broken up into fire weather zones. Those are broken up. So let's look at Fort Jones. So Fort Jones is here. Can you open that up on Fort Jones for me? So throughout the year, we used Zone Haven all last year. It wasn't public facing much, but we used it internally to see if it worked. And with the help of all of the fire chiefs, most of those folks sitting right there, local and federal resources, we used local Fort Jones fire chiefs, Etna fire chiefs. We just used the professionals. We also used our partners at CHP and local police departments. So we broke up all of these zones based off of their recommendations. And each town has a designator. So Fort Jones is FTJ, Etna, not on here, ETN, Wairika, YRE. So they each have their own designator and a number. Siskiyou, obviously, is just going to have SIS. So that is what your zone is. And that's going to, so you and I get to talk after this, and I'm going to get you all plugged in so you know exactly where it's at. Does that work? Okay, so we're part there, but now we'll get you in your zone, and then we'll get you all dialed in, okay? All right.
And we have one more question over here.
Hi, several. I think a lot of us aren't really aware of what the different branches are. You got a branch 1 and a branch 10 and a branch 20. If you would give us a perimeter, maybe definition of that branch. Also, on your fire maps, you got a legend in the upper left corner, and it'll be red for the fire, and and the intensity, the heat, and the yellow, and the white for maybe a 24-hour difference. But there was a large black perimeter line going off the map, and there was no definition of what the black meant. And also,
which map was that you were looking at?
It was on the phones, the different Forest Service maps, I think. And then one other is on your road closures, Sheriff. They're not really, we've got a wooden horse down at the base of our road closed, but it's not a hard closure, so, I don't want some lowlife coming up and ripping me off. And so I don't want to be there, but I am there because I can protect myself and my property. If there was, whether it was National Guard or law enforcement at each entry to the roads going up the drainages, like Indian, there was a couple of hard closures today, but say Tyler Gulch or Rattlesnake or beyond, these low lights can go up there and nail you, and they're gone.
Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to have my operations section chief kind of give a little description of what the branches mean. In regards to the other map, I will get with you afterwards so you can kind of give me a better idea which map you're looking at so that I can give you an answer to that. And then once my operations section chief is done giving a little description of this map so you better understand it, I'll have Sheriff LaRue just come up and talk a little bit. They are doing daily and evening patrols around all the evacuated areas. We have California Highway Patrol is out there, as well as Siskiyou County Sheriff's Department and Jackson County Sheriff's Department. There's even Cal OES Police Department is out there in the areas. So they are highly patrolling on a regular basis, and they are checking in, and they are checking IDs when they do contact these, but I will have him come up after we do that. And then I will get with you after to see what other map you're directly talking about. Thank you.
So branches are just a span of control tool for us. So as an operations section chief, I work directly for the incident commander to separate some span of control and supervision. We set up branches. So a branch director has a geographic piece, and it's these square bars here. So from here to here is branch 1. Subsequent to that are divisions or geographic areas. So a division supervisor. So division Zulu is this chunk, and it's separated by these parentheses right here. So that's their geographic area of responsibility. Division Whiskey. So divisions are identified with letters. Branches are identified by numbers, and it's just a span of control tool for us, so we can flex the size of the incident. Again, it fit, nearly 60,000 acres. I can't drive around the entire fire. I haven't been successful in doing it yet. My challenge is to do it, to get around the entire fire and talk to folks in the shift. But I haven't got there yet. But I have seen every ounce of the fire that is there. I just can't do it all in one day.
Sheriff LaRue, do you just want to come and make sure I was accurate on the information provided?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So road closures, I'll try to be brief with this. I mean, we have a ton of roads in Siskiyou County. So with the partnership of the California Highway Patrol, depending on the location of the road, we have what we'll call hard closures and soft closures. The soft closures are not designed to keep everybody, I mean, you would hope that people would do the right thing, which you and I both know that there are people that do not. I'm not going to pretend on that one. So that's why we have patrol that hopefully is supplementing as best they can on these roadways. So if you have a soft closure, that's basically saying, hey, turn around. If somebody was nefarious, as you indicated, yes, you could drive around that, but that's why we're out patrolling. Hard closures that are manned, so to speak, with officers or highway patrol, depending to the extent of how much traffic goes through, then we do hard closures. It's just difficult to put, I guess, hard closures on every road. So we hope that our presence supplementing with, over 60 law enforcement officers is adequate to get in there. But I will say this, if there are areas where you're seeing people you don't want to see, or you have a concern about that, feel free to call us so that we can get to these locations. And I encourage you to do that. So we want to be there because we don't want people getting in, and we try to do as many checks as possible. We have operational plans with large areas where we patrol to make sure we go up and down streets. You have marked cars, unmarked cars, so we're doing our best on that, but feel free to call in if you're not seeing us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll take one more question he's patient over here up top, and then we're over time, so we'll take this one question. I have a few questions online that I'd like to address to give them the courtesy. And like I said, these guys aren't going anywhere, so afterwards, please do feel free to come up and ask your other questions. All the way up top, yeah.
Yes, the ribbons were brought up, the color codes, and looking at the Forest Service website, it says that their structure assessment color codes are using the same system here that you used on the Crazy Horse Fire.
Well, like I said before, I know Brian kind of gave a little bit of description. I would like to get full confirmation that that is what they're using it for. So once I get confirmation of exactly what they are being used for by my operations personnel, I will put that information out onto the websites so that you guys know, because I don't want to say, yes, we're doing that, because we might not be. And so I don't want to give inaccurate information. I don't want anybody else to.
Okay.
So I will address that on the internet once we get accurate information of what they are used for.
Okay, yeah, I would just hope that somebody from the Forest Service would address that and be aware of it, since they're putting all the ribbons out on the homes in the evacuated areas.
It's on my list to make sure we do get accurate info.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so one of the questions that we do have online is for my air resource advisor. They would just like to know how often these wind patterns change that they should be looking for that you spoke of.
Good question. I think we are in a pattern that's going to be primarily from the west, from the westerly direction, traveling east. The IMETs, or the meteorologists, have mentioned that the thunderstorm activity, which causes havoc of these downflows, are going to be leaving us for a few days, and so we are dominated by these westerlies. And just understanding that, I think you can kind of understand that that will be in play primarily for the duration, at least for the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Hopefully that answers that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Another question was, are we using air tankers? My ops personnel did advise that we have been using them, that they were used today. And then the other one is, will the lines hold? As my ops indicated, everything in red is the lines that they're working on. Everything in black is what we feel is containment, and we put the black up when we feel those are going to hold, and we don't have to worry about it. We will not put black on any of the map until we know those lines are going to hold. So that answers that question. We are all very hot. We're over our time, like I said, but nobody is leaving, so do feel free to come up and ask questions. And for those of you guys online, I still have people that virtually are working that will answer your questions, and we will have some responses for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening.